The Blackhawks face the Wild again, and they've lost all 3 games, 4-3 in extra time. Let's flip the tables and win this one. Join us next on the CHGO Blackhawks pregame show. In Minnesota, I'm Zawaski with Mario Tirabassi. Chloe Thiel's here running the show. We appreciate you being here with us. Do us a favor, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page as well. And remember, we'll be with you as soon as the game ends today. If you missed the cold open, the Hawks have lost 4-3 to the Wild in overtime or the shootout in all 3 games this season.
Yes. So if you're going over to Bet365, bet the over and bet the Wild to win in extra time.
There you go.
Get yourself some money, because why wouldn't it happen again?
Could it be 4-3 and extra? I wonder if the odds are, the odds of that happening 4 times in a year have to be almost 0.
Yeah.
So you'd think it's a safe bet that it's not going to be that. But hey, look, we were talking before the game with our guy Patrick Norton. He said, if you take 4 points from the Wild this year, 4 of 8 is not bad considering how good the Wild have been playing. So
yeah,
I'm hoping they have a better start tonight. That was a problem last game. Mm-hmm. It was a problem against Vegas. And once they shake off that rust of the first 10, 15 minutes, they're playing them kind of even. And some big news from Minnesota just announced a couple minutes ago. Yeah. Kirill Kaprizov is out for this game, will not play for the Wild. So that is a huge weapon out of the lineup for the Wild, so they'll win 3-2 in overtime.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they were without Joel Eriksson-Ek in the last game. So that's I don't think he's back either. So that's 2 key players that the Wild would be missing for this one. So yeah, it's an opportunity for the Hawks to try and, as we've talked these last couple of games and closing out the season, you want to finish with some positivity. You want to finish with some good results, some good games. Put those on tape going into next season, especially for a lot of these young players who some of them are going to be, guys that are going to be here to start the year next year as well. Like, get that going in that direction. You want to have those players playing that way, having those moments, having those results. Because this is the time that it'll stack up for the beginning of next season, and these final few games set the tone for going into training camp and everything. Yeah, Eriksson-Ek is out, Marcus Foligno is out, Kaprizov is out, Jesper Wallstedt is starting, Bobby Brink appears to be in for the Wild. All this per Michael Russo, who covers the Wild for The Athletic and runs Bill Guerin's burner account. Yes he does. Who will not play today is Sasha Boisvert, who is still awaiting a visa clearance so he can start playing for the Hawks. He's been working off the ice on his own, cannot work with the team until that visa gets cleared, so he can't practice, can't do a morning skate, can't do pretty much anything in Blackhawks gear until that work visa is approved. It's a little bit ridiculous that we're in a professional sport. It's been almost a week, and there's no clearance on this thing. I can't believe that the league just doesn't say all players get dual visas for the entirety of the season. Like, I don't remember this happening. Like, if a Toronto Blue Jay is traded to an American team, do they have to go through this too? I don't recall that ever happening. If I'm wrong, correct me in the chat. This feels like a hockey only thing. Well, I think if you're already on if you're a professional athlete that is playing in Canada and then you go to play in the U.S., I'd imagine it would be a simpler process because he wasn't on a work visa like a professional athlete was. He was on a student one. So I don't think it's just kind of like can you just kind of like a small change? Like, I think it's like a completely different thing. Also, look at the lines at the airports and stuff. Like, our government is also right now kind of shut down. So to expedite processes and things like that seem like they're going to be delayed. So I think that could play a hand in it too. But I mean, also the Blackhawks really haven't had a lot of practice time for him to jump into it. So, they had a morning skate today. Would he have, if he was cleared, like if he had the visa today, would he have just done morning skate and played? Maybe
he's not playing tomorrow.
But if he did morning skate today and was with the team and then came in tomorrow, like I would think that he could do that, but they're not going to have a morning skate tomorrow, so maybe he doesn't play tomorrow either.
And they're off Saturday as of now, and then they've got a 2 p.m. game against Nashville on Sunday, so no morning skate there. So is he not playing until next week?
Maybe. I mean,
I guess that's fine.
As of right now, he can't.
It would just be cool to see. It would be cool to see the kid play, and you got to feel for him, who obviously had a weird end to his college hockey career after being late to practice and then being scratched for one of their playoff games, and took a penalty at the end of their finale, and just kind of not a great fit at BU, an injury-plagued season. He's got to be chomping at the bit to get back on the ice, and he just can't, and it's out of control. It's out of his control. It's got to be really, really frustrating. Also, Anton Frondell, he won the game for them in overtime on, what was that, Tuesday?
Yes.
Jurgens, today they lost their game to Malmo, so it's a 1-1 series. That series will be decided on Saturday. So if Jurgens loses Saturday, Anton Frondell should be on his way to the United States to play with the Blackhawks. I would imagine he will go through similar visa issues that Sacha Boisvert is going through.
Probably.
So, it might be another week until that gets done. So frustrating. I think we're all sort of in that mindset of, let's see the new players. Let's get them here. We want to see some fresh blood. We're excited about the future. And it's like, hurry up and wait. It's really aggravating. And it's going to be extra aggravating when it's Anton Frondell, because I think that's the guy of any of the Blackhawks prospects that people are most excited about. So let's hope this gets worked out quickly and these guys can join the Hawks either this weekend, not Frondell, Boisvert hopefully this weekend, and then Frondell at some point next week. Of course, we don't want Jurgens to lose. We want them to make a deep, deep run into the playoffs. Yeah, that's definitely what we want. But there will be a little delay on him as well. All right, Jeff Blashill spoke to Steve Conroy, who I think is the only person from Chicago in Minnesota right now. So let's hear what the head coach had to say after today's morning skate.
Hey, Louis Crevier's been solid all year long. Yeah. Is he taking advantage of the minutes maybe that Connor Murphy had, and just talk about his play this year?
Yeah, I think his certainly he's been. I would say in the penalty kills probably were the biggest difference in opportunity for him compared to Murph. Murph normally was the first over the boards, and now he is the first over the boards. And so, part of that for him, I think, is getting a chance to get reps and all those little nuances on the penalty kill that he's done some, but not as much. So I think that's a huge opportunity for him to get those reps. He's been a good player for us all year. I think his confidence is certainly growing. Where I see it the most is when he's breaking the puck out well. He's taking that extra split second to make sure, does he have a tape-to-tape pass? If not, put it into a safe spot, as opposed to just kind of firing it around, using that size that he has to take that extra split second. And I think he's certainly realizing what a weapon his shot is. And he does have a weapon. Whether it's scoring the goal like he scored, or whether it's creating chaos because it's hard to control the rebound if you're a goalie when it's coming that hard.
Yeah, he hit that rebound assist. Yeah. A lot of close games against Minnesota this year. What's been a key playing against them?
Certainly you got to play, first off, just play nearly your best. Like, they're a really good team, and so if you play your B game, you're gonna be in a tough spot. I think they probably, all the games were a little bit different. I thought the game in here was honestly one of our better games in the second half of the year. I thought we played excellent through the majority of the game. Unfortunately, we didn't come out with a win. The last game was different. It was more of a tale of two games in a sense. I thought they carried the play certainly in the first half of the game, and I thought we carried the play the second half of the game. And one of the big keys to me is you don't want to defend some of their high-end offensive players. And so making them defend is really important. And even if that means you're not creating scoring chances, but you're spending time in their zone, just again not allowing them to attack. It's like a running game in football. That ground game I think is really important against them.
Was that the key last game? Because it wasn't a great first period, but the second and third, you guys really dominated.
Yeah.
Was that the biggest difference?
I think the biggest difference probably is one, we broke it out cleaner, so then it does allow you to go into their end and have that ground game. And so I thought early in the game I just thought honestly we didn't break it out very clean and we didn't win enough puck battles. And if you're not ready to win puck battles against this team, it's going to be a hard night.
Quinn Hughes, obviously an elite player. I didn't really notice him as much last game. But what's the key to defending a guy like him?
Well, he's one of the very, very best in the league. I've had a chance to coach Quinn a couple times on World Championship teams. I think he's an outstanding, honestly, one of the just couple best in the league. And so, it's never going to be perfect. I thought, he does a really good job in the O-zone of movement to create shooting lanes. And I thought we did a decent job of that, but he still got some off. And then he does a really good job, obviously, of joining and being part of the rush. And so you have to make sure that you get back above him. You can't. It's not as necessarily about finishing hits as it is about bumping him and then just making sure you beat him back up the ice.
All right, that's Jeff Blashill. Thanks to the Blackhawks for use of that video. And we've got the lineup through the magic of the internet via Ben Pope, who's not there but has people on the ground in Minnesota. Connor Bedard with Ryan Green and Andre Burakovsky. Frank Nazar with Tyler Bertuzzi and Teuvo Teravainen. Donato centers Mangiapane, Mango, and Mikheyev. And you have Nick Lardis and Landon Slaggert as your 10th and 11th. Forwards are going 11 and 7. So your D pairs are Grzelcyk, Levshinov. We'll talk about that. Vlasic, Renzel, Kaiser, Crevier with Ethan Del Mastro rotating in. And Spencer Knight will get the starting goal tonight, which means tomorrow, Arvid Soderblom versus the Avalanche. Grzelcyk and Levshinov is interesting. I know they played together a little bit this year, but not a ton. Interested to see how that dynamic will work, especially considering, and look, let's be real, Matt Grzelcyk was not scratched because of performance. It was, we've got to get Ethan Del Mastro in a lineup. Yes. Grzelcyk was the one Hawk aside from Ryan Donato that had played every game this year and has done a fantastic job considering it was a PTO. It's $1 million deal. You're happy with him, but I'm interested to see how that combination looks tonight.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll, with 7 defensemen, they'll rotate guys around. Yeah. Levshinov's coming off a game where he played 26 minutes against the same Minnesota Wild. And Grzelcyk's been a guy that's been really just kind of steady all year, not too flashy, but you also don't watch him for 66 games this season and be like, boy, what a liability he is. He just kind of goes out there and just gives you a consistent effort. And if he and Levshinov are paired together for the majority of this game, I think it gives already a defensive partner that is just solid and consistent and quiet, which I think is predictable. I think that can be a good thing for Levshinov to have, and maybe allows him to kind of open up a little bit more than if he was with Vlasic or Kaiser.
And Michael Evans says in the chat, I wonder why Blashill went away from Kaiser and Levshinov. Yeah, they'd been together the majority of the year, and we have talked a lot about how Wyatt Kaiser had kind of been big brother to Artem Levshinov and helping him on the ice and helping him with in practice understand the coach's instruction, because English is a second language. He's learning it, and having it shouted over people talking and pucks banging can be tough. So to have Kaiser there is kind of his, I guess you'd call him the left-hand man because he's on the left side. He's gone away from that lately. So maybe he's just trying to see, Artie with some different looks. What does Levshinov do best with who? Played a career high last game with Alex Vlasic. Played 26 plus minutes. No, part of that was a 2.5 minute shift in overtime. But right. Still, that still is 24 minutes leading the team, and still would have been close to a career high for him. So I don't know if he's just trying to get looks now with these young guys. And at some point, I know he's talked a lot about the opportunity for Nick Lardis and him having to earn it and work on those little things. But if you're experimenting on the blue line, trying to get different looks, I would like to see, since you're doing 11 and 7, you're going to double shift Bedard. Maybe put Lardis up there with some more skilled guys, not just Bedard, but get him out there with Green, get him out there with Teuvo. See what happens. Maybe you almost use him as a secret offensive weapon when you need a little bit of jump. I want to see a little more ice time for Lardis. And I know, ice time has to be earned. That's a given. But at the same time, it's kind of chicken or egg for me, because when you play so little in a game and you're on a line that's job is primarily to check and defend, Nick Lardis is not getting the opportunities to do what he does best and make a strong impression and score a goal or pick up an assist because they're so busy defending. And sure, maybe in the long run, that's good for his development. He learns to play that game and add that element. But I want to see him as the season rolls on here to get some opportunities in the top 6. And also when Frondell comes, that opportunity is going to be even less for Nick Lardis. So now is maybe the time to start giving him a look up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think this sets up to double shift Connor Bedard, which they did 2 games ago, not last game that often, but more often 2 games ago that they were double shifting him with Lardis and Slaggert. And I mean, it gives an opportunity for Bedard or for Lardis to play with Bedard, which is, I mean, that's the most skilled guy you can play with on this team. And I think for those 2 guys playing together, having a guy that is a profile like Landon Slaggert is good. Like, that's somebody that's going to play fast, play aggressive, and try and go and get pucks. I'm completely okay with that. I think if you stick him with Lardis and Lafferty, or Slaggert and Lafferty with Nick, like that's a different mixture. So I think this lines up to give Lardis some time to play with Bedard, and I'm okay with that. If that's what they do, if they just stick him with 5 minutes tonight, then you get to a point where you're just like, all right, seems like a waste of time. If he's going to be up here and playing 5 minutes, like, it's not worth it. But I think the 11 forward group, like you also, like you said, like when you have 11 forwards, you can just rotate anybody you want. Like, it doesn't need to just be Bedard. It could be, you could double shift Nazar. You could, you could throw Teravainen out there with those guys. Like, it just gives you that kind of flexibility. So I'm okay with it if that's how they're going to try and utilize Lardis in this game is give him that time. And, to what you said about, when, Frondell gets here, you could play Lardis and Frondell together. Sure. I think what would be the most exciting, and I think what might bring the most success, is putting Frondell with Bedard. But you could put Frondell down the middle and play him with Lardis. You could try that, because he's played center before.
Why not give it a look?
Primarily been wing, but he's played center before. You could give it a try. Or, call me crazy, you could go Lardis, Boisvert, Frondell. Like, all rookies. Sounds fun to me. All rookies. I think there's a lot of options that Blashill could go with this configuration and with the guys coming in.
Fubar Totale points out what a lot of people are thinking, claiming on one hand that ice time is earned, then keeping Burakovsky on the top line is a bit disingenuous.
Yes, we know.
Yeah, that has been the frustration all year. And look, like, Jeff Blashill has been asked about it ad nauseum, and his defense is always like, well, our internal numbers show that Andrei Burakovsky is playing really well, and we like what he's doing, and he's a plus player for us. And since we don't have access to those numbers, it's something we can't really argue with, aside from, but look at the stats.
Yes, but my eyes.
Right. Like, and I will say, I think that he's been better lately. He hasn't been he
had that stretch of like 2 weeks where it was like literally every time the puck touched his stick, it went to the other team.
Now he's just simply not scoring, but he's not turning the puck over endlessly. He looks more like he looked earlier in the year, and he's just not getting the goals or the assists, which you can live with a little bit. But man, I don't know.
It's a weird
If you're not going to bench him during that stretch, you're probably not bench him. If you're not going to demote him during that stretch where he was so awful.
But they did. The last 2 games before the Olympic break, he was down on the third line, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But then from the Olympic break, it was back up to the top.
But it's not going to, point being, it's not going to happen now. Now that he's back to like normal Burakovsky as opposed to disaster Burakovsky.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes back to having a stretch of games which it doesn't look good, and then you have Frondell here, I think that's the change that I would make if I was in Jeff Blashill's spot, but I'm not.
Not yet.
Yeah, let it play out. But I think like Burakovsky's in a weird spot because like he's not a all around the lineup guy. He's not a really great defensive player. So if he's not producing and playing well in the top 6, you can't really make him effective in a role that would force a guy to be more defensive, play a defensive matchup like on that third line or fourth line with, guys like Donato and Mikheyev or with Slaggert and stuff like that. Like those guys will play more of that defensive style, try and play a little bit of matchup hockey. Burakovsky's not really that guy. So if he's not being effective in one spot, like, do you just you just nullify his effectiveness at all, or you bench him?
I don't
think you're at a spot where you.
But I feel like on a good team. So that's to say, like Andre Burakovsky just couldn't play for a good team, and that's definitely not true because he has 2 Stanley Cups, right? So there is some other team has found a role for him aside from top 6, and if you can put him with guys who can play defensively reliably, maybe it's Donato and Mikheyev, maybe it's Donato and Teravainen, maybe it's something we haven't even thought of yet, right? Mm-hmm. And just have him be the offensive threat on that line. First of all, it gets him better matchups, right? He doesn't have to go against the other team, the opponent's top defenders, because anytime you're on the ice with 98, you're going to see the opponent's top defenders. Right. That's a given. So if you can move him down, maybe he becomes more of a weapon there. We're going to find out soon, because there's no way in hell, in my mind, that Anton Frondell is going to be on the bottom 6 to make room for Andre Burakovsky.
You can't.
No, that would be ridiculous. So I don't see that happening. They're gonna have to figure out. Look, buyout candidate in the offseason. Why not? I mean, if you're looking at it and say, if Jeff Blashill's opinion is, and Jeff Blashill's not going anywhere, if his opinion is, I can only play him on the top 6, and you've got Bedard, and you've got Nazar, and you've got Frondell and Kanserov, and who knows if you trade for someone this summer, and maybe you draft someone who's ready, maybe you draft Gavin McKenna. Or Ivar Stenberg, who would both probably be NHL ready out of the hop.
Please.
Right? Like, so there's your top 6. Where's he going to go?
Yeah. But, yes, I agree. But also then that it knocks guys down. And then you can say your third line is Burakovsky and he's the offensive option alongside 2 guys who are going to be a bit more defensive. Like, then you can go that way. I'm fine with that.
Let's just see it.
Yeah, I just it probably will come down more likely to how things shake out to start next season, rather than shoehorning something in the final dozen games or whatever. But I think in reality, that's probably what happens to close the year. But for me, what I would continue to push the young guys, give them those opportunities. And yeah, you want to instill the you got to earn it kind of stuff, but at some point, the on the ice from the coaching and the on the ice from the organizational position that they're in needs to come together and be like, we understand, we want to have have this sense of these young guys earn their opportunities, earn their time, but also these young guys are the future. Give them space, give them opportunity to take those opportunities.
Well, and I think for the most part, Blashill has shown he's not afraid to play young players. And I know like the Lourdes conversation continues in the chat, right? Like, but he has put young players in big opportunities. Ryan Green has been on the top line with Connor Bedard all year.
Pretty much, yeah.
Last game, he went with a 6 defenseman, the oldest of which was 24 years old, and has played under 300 games. Like, he's not afraid to put a young lineup out there. I think he wants to see more from Lourdes on all parts of the ice, and I think for now, that's okay, because I think it's a bit of a surprise that Nick Lourdes even played for the Hawks this year.
As much as he has.
Yeah, maybe after the deadline, you could have seen, like, all right, depending on how many guys they move, there's probably a spot for him. So fine. If you feel like he needs that development, cool. But I don't want to see him, and look, I don't want to get into the Lucas Reichel thing, but like, I don't want Nick Lourdes to be the new Lucas Reichel where you send him to Rockford, he lights it up, he's a really great scorer, and then you come up to the NHL and his opportunity is mostly on the fourth line. Again, I think this was a problem with Reichel, is he sort of just refused to understand the things he needed to do to stay in the top 6. I don't think Nick Lourdes is that guy, because I do think we've seen some strides from him defensively already this year.
Yeah.
I just don't want him to be that guy again. But I don't think it's Blashill saying, young player, you have to earn it. I think he's saying specifically, Nick Lardis, I need to see this and this before you're playing 15-plus minutes a night, which is fair for now.
Game, and we saw the strides that he took in Rockford, primarily the defensive side of things that they've really focused on with him. And I think this is a continuation of that and saying, like, we want to keep you working on these things because we know you have that offensive ability and you can be that threat. So let's use this time as a little bit of a development ground of that style and putting him in those situations. But they're also still giving him power play time, and he was out there for overtime again the other night.
Yes,
and,
he was.
And got the assist on the Bedard winner a few games ago. So like he's still getting those like cookies, so to say. But the 5-on-5 stuff is where he's more limited now than he was earlier this season when he was up.
Steve in the chat says, my concern is Blashill sees something in Lardis' game that he doesn't like, and that's why he isn't going up. I think right now that's probably the case, but I don't think Jeff Blashill has made any sort of decision about Nick Lardis yet.
You can't.
I don't think he's like, nope, this guy can't play for me. Like, I think we saw that from Q a couple of times. I think we saw that with Tavo with Q a little bit. There were other young players. We saw that with Q where he's like, no, I don't have time to do this. I'm not in the development business, which is fair for Q. They're trying to win
at
under
that
him.
time. Yeah.
But I don't think that I don't think Jeff Blashill has soured on Nick Lardis at all. I think he's looking at the roster he's got. He's looking at lines that have actually done okay together, right? Like, you're not going to change the Nazar line because Nazar's been red hot lately.
It's working.
Connor Bedard's playing well. Ryan Green's scoring goals. And Burakovsky is not picking up points, but that line overall has been good. Mm-hmm. So I understand the desire to not change that. And I don't think he feels comfortable putting Lardis on a checking line. So it's kind of like this is what remains to put him on. Move him up to power play 1, maybe? Sure. Get power play 2 out there a little more after a couple failed zone entries.
Power play 1 is what? Bertuzzi, Nazar, Bedard,
Renzel.
No, is it Levshinov?
It's been Renzel lately.
Okay. Who's the other forward? Is it Tavo? Who am I forgetting?
Yeah, Tavo's on power play 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could swap him with Tavo. Give him a chance. I no reason not to.
I just think that we are gnashing teeth way more about Nick Lardis than Jeff Blashill is. I don't think he's worried about him, but I think right now he's saying, this is what I've got. This is what I want to see, and let's see if he gets the message. All right, we will talk to you on the post-game show as soon as things wrap up. If you've not hit the like button, please do so. We'll talk to you in about 2 hours and 45 minutes on CHGO Blackhawks.
We all silly like the mayor.